This podcast is made possible by the listener members of Nashville Public Radio.
This is the Nashvillager Podcast. It's January 8th, 2025, the 25th anniversary of the Tennessee Titans' greatest moment ever, the Music City Miracle. I went back and watched old footage of the play yesterday, and honestly, as much as I've heard the football fans in my family talk about it in the years since, I'd forgotten just how much of a long shot it was. The Titans were playing the Buffalo Bills in the AFC Championship. 15 seconds left in the game. The Bills had just scored to take a 1-point lead, so it seemed like an impossibility for anything to change. Some of the Bills players were already celebrating on the sidelines. And then, in one near-perfect, almost impossible run, almost down the entire football field, the Titans scored the most improbable touchdown, and with it, a ticket to the Super Bowl. I'm Nina Cardona, and this is your daily digest of what's happening around Middle Tennessee from Nashville Public Radio, WPLN News. Boy, things sure are different now for the Titans. Now, as you may have figured out from my word choice a few sentences ago, I'm related to Titans fans, but I don't personally pay much attention to football. It's really just not my thing. But I know enough that when my son came home early from this Sunday's game and summed it up by saying, well, the Titans get the first draft pick, my first reaction was, oh, whoa, I'm sorry. Because that's the league's attempt at leveling the playing field, right? The team with the worst record for the season gets the first chance to pick a good new player. But man, it must especially hurt to win that dubious honor of a first draft pick days before a milestone anniversary of the organization's brightest, most shining moment. And it puts into especially sharp focus that the Titans made it to the Super Bowl just a few years after evolving into that team from the Oilers and making the big move to Tennessee, and they haven't been back to the championship game since. But looking back at that high point, a fan who believes in omens and fate and patterns might take a little hope. Because the Music City Miracle happened near the end of the very first season played in the current Nissan Stadium. In fact, the Titans won every home game that season. And we're getting closer and closer to the day when there's a new facility for the team. In the last year, that building project has gone from a hole in the ground to walls rising up, and it's looking more stadium-like every day. Could it possibly bring the luck the team needs? Another good first season in the new stadium? Maybe. Of course, that's still a couple of years out. And between then and now, they've got at least one strong draft pick to help get things in better shape. The other question with that project, of course, is whether the stadium will ultimately go down in the books as a lucky bet for the city. Because it's being built with one of football's most substantial government subsidy packages ever. Plus work done to shore up the current stadium for these last couple of seasons before the team moves immediately next door to their new digs. And that all really bothers the Beacon Center. The local think tank released its annual pork report recently, detailing what they consider wasteful government spending. And this time, they picked 3 municipal spending matters to highlight, including the taxpayer funding for that football field. They titled that section of the report, NFL, Nashville Funding Losers. Of course, all that city and state money going into the building project isn't the only source of funding the Titans are trying to find related to the new stadium. A new facility means new personal seat licenses, or memberships, as they like to call it now, for people who want to buy season tickets. Folks who have PSLs at the current stadium get first dibs, but it costs a lot more to get one for a similar seat at the new venue, even with the credit for the old one. The team is midway through their efforts of trying to sell current seat holders on making that move. They started with what they called Wave 1, folks with premium seat locations. Then moved to the next group, Wave 2, back in October. Titans officials say the first wave went really well and that they were able to move on to the next phase ahead of schedule. But let's be honest, the track record on the field this season can't be helping. And I'll be really upfront. It's been a discussion in my family, for sure. My mother-in-law bought a pair of PSLs for the inaugural season at the current stadium. Pretty much every home game since, either my husband or his brother have been there in person. Sometimes one of them with their mom, sometimes with one of our kids. They were there together for the Music City Miracle. My son and his football-playing cousin grew up using those seats and watching their team play in person. When my mother-in-law died this fall, the decision about what to do with the PSLs fell to Chuck and Chris. And between the higher price tag and the way the team's been playing, well, I can tell that they feel weird about it. But the choice hasn't actually been that hard. They'll probably still go to games now and then, and they'll keep getting season tickets while these PSLs are still good. But they aren't getting a membership for new seats in the new place. And these are discussions going on in a lot of Titan-loving households right now. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out as the membership sales keep going forward. We do have more people living in the Nashville area now, a lot more than when the first PSLs went up for sale. So theoretically, there are more potential buyers in the market. But then you have to ask how poor performance affects a newcomer's willingness to buy in with real money. Are the Titans able to make paying fans of new Middle Tennesseans when they rack up not just the worst record of any NFL team this year, but the team's own worst season since moving to Tennessee? That's the tricky thing about money in sports. These incredibly expensive building projects that intertwine team and government money take years to construct. And in the meantime, one major driver of interest in the final product is constantly fluctuating, sometimes wildly, on how well that team can manage to play a game. No market is completely straightforward and predictable, but sports has an awful lot of moving pieces, you know? The ups and downs intrinsic to sports seems to breed a kind of psychological effect. There's a reason so many sports fans choose to embrace at least a little bit of superstition, you know, a little something that can make you feel a tiny bit of control that could make the outcome a good one. Wearing lucky socks on game day or whatever it is for you or your team's fandom. And maybe that's what all of us need as we wait to see whether the Titan Stadium project pays tangible dividends on the city and state's taxpayer-funded investment. If we all do everything right between now and then, maybe we can will into existence another winning inaugural season in the new stadium. I mean, it happened once before, after all. Who's to say it couldn't happen again? In just a few minutes, there's a lot more going on in this town beyond sports. This week's edition of Where When-sday is coming up after the newscast.
On This is Nashville, we're taking a journey into the identity of this place we call home. The old and the new, the glitzy and the gritty, the monumental and the human. What makes Nashville tick? What makes it unique? And where are we headed as a city? We're going deeper on the day's news, bringing you dynamic conversations and taking you with us out into the community. Join us weekdays at noon. This is Nashville.
Here's the latest from WPLN News. A new poll by a conservative think tank finds that a majority of Tennessee voters back a proposal to make school vouchers for private education available statewide. WKMS's Hannah Saad has more.
Tennessee currently makes school vouchers available to students in the Nashville, Memphis, and Chattanooga areas. But the Beacon Center of Tennessee found that 2/3 of voters in the volunteer state are in favor of making them available to students in every county. Under Governor Bill Lee's Education Freedom Scholarship Plan, up to 20,000 students would be eligible to receive a little over $7,000 in public funding to use on private education. The Universal School Voucher measure failed to pass the legislature last year, but bills have already been filed in the Tennessee House and Senate to consider it again in the upcoming session, which starts on January 14th. I'm Hannah Saad in Paducah.
99% of Tennessee high school seniors took the ACT in 2024. The State Department of Education says around 60% of school districts had near-perfect participation rates. Tennessee pays for students to take the standardized test for free during school hours at least twice a year. Most U.S. colleges no longer require an ACT or SAT score for admission, but around 10% still do. The Tennessee Department of Education uses the test to measure academic achievement in schools and districts. Williamson County schools had the highest number of students who met the state's benchmark score. Among the most improved districts was Tullahoma City schools, where nearly half of students met state standards, up from around 30% last year. The chairman of Nashville General Hospital's board is stepping down. Pastor Frank Stevenson has been on the board for 9 years and was elected chair in 2023. In a written statement, Stevenson said he decided it was time to make way for new leadership. Metro owns and oversees the public hospital. It's located on the campus of Meharry Medical College and functions as a teaching hospital. However, the lease is nearing the end of its term, and under Stevenson's tenure, the board has been looking for new sites, including a potential plot in Metro Center. There's been quite a bit of buzz in the Nashville food scene lately about a coveted reservation. It's not at a sought-after restaurant, but a variety of places, all of which are participating in Folks Table. The idea is to get strangers together and create real community offline. But what makes that different than taking the plunge on a Facebook post or Eventbrite? Co-founders Emma McCallie and Dallas Condra say it's the game each table plays, where everyone has a role.
Step one, Toastmaster.
Toastmaster. This is the person who kicks off the table with a nice cheers and really warms up the evening's clink clink of the night.
Next up, Depth Diver. So that's somebody that allows you to go in a little bit deeper if you are holding back and not really wanting to answer the question to the full potential. The Depth Diver will help push that person to make sure that they're answering that question all the way.
We've got a secret admirer, which really becomes a not-so-secret admirer at the table. And what you can't see is that in each game box, there's a tiny chair. And so the secret admirer awards the chair at the end of the round for someone they really thought kind of went there and really shared Folks Table values.
Mm-hmm.
You can learn more about Folks Table and hear a sample of how the game is played in yesterday's episode of This is Nashville. Listen at WPLN.org or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll find more news anytime at WPLN.org. Well, we're back to weeks without some kind of holiday breaking things up, which can feel like a slog. But there's always something fun or interesting going on in Music City.
I'm Marquise Munson here with another edition of Nashville Public Radio's Where When-sday, keeping you up to date with the happenings in Nashville. Live music this week ranges from WNXP presents Chuck Indigo at the Blue Room this Friday and Brittany Howard's Nashville Hardcore Benefit Show at the Basement East on Sunday. And for more events, head over to WNXP.org/events.
Everybody got their own problems. Everybody going through something. You say the world turning cause of dollars. You better go outside and get some money. Cause everybody got their own problems.
This week for Where When-sdays, we discuss Woven Nashville, an evening of music, art, and conversation happening tomorrow at the Friss Art Museum.
Chuck Beard, and I am a co-host for Woven Nashville. Woven Nashville is the second iteration of an idea that Jason Eskridge and I kind of came into together. A year and a half ago, I hosted a show called Eastside Storytelling that always brought local musicians and local authors together in a setting where they could share their stories about why they create. During the pandemic, that went away after 7 years of that. And then one particular person that owns Goodwood, Nashville, would always come up to me and say, hey, when are we going to do this again? I have a spot that we can host. And one time after he had done that, the last time we saw each other at a Titans game, the next day I was at Cornelia Airport Park and saw Jason Eskridge, and he was playing with his daughter, and I just told him about this, wanting to get this Eastside Storytelling up again, but in a different way and not doing it by myself. That's when I learned that he had to take a break from his singing career because of vocal stuff that he was working on and having troubles with. So we came together and did a series once a month called Good Nights at Goodwood, bringing together 3 different artists, always one musician, and then a nonprofit that was featured that talked about what they're doing, what's going on, how to get engaged. And it was just always a free event, always a platform where artists got paid. And like a common thing in Nashville right now, when the lease was kind of up and they were needing to do other things with the space, we put it on hold. But serendipitously, Seth, who's the executive director at the Frist, came to 2 of those shows, and he liked it, and he came up to us in between that off season, if you will, and said, hey, we're starting to do a bunch of things on Thursday nights at the Frist and new things, because he's a new position, new person, Nashville native, but he's coming in wanting to do some things locally, and he enjoyed the show. And we just all talked about it and then just started it up when the time was right and doing it once a month, where we always feature one musician, which Jason is the point of contact because he's the point of contact for all of Music City, as you know. And then I just come in with another artist that kind of pairs with it. Most of the time, I don't even know who the musician is or I haven't met. I know they're talented. And then just pair them up with a different artist of a different medium. And we've done 2 shows and other things, but in the past, we've done comics and writers and any kind of medium of art that you have, DJ as well. And this next show, we've got Khalil coming.
I'm Khalil Iacovone, and this is Nashville.
Well, you live in Nashville, and you know that you can basically throw a rock outside and hit at least 3 or 4 artists at different mediums, whether you know them before you throw the rock or not. And really, it's just a space and the cafe cheesery. It's free to attend, discount parking, which is important when you come out of anywhere. But you can stumble in, and you're going to learn the stories and hear the materials of a songwriter that's amazing and another artist of a different medium that are going to be vulnerable. We're not filming it, so you're going to have no filters and just truth. And Jason and I set up a space where it's just fun to share the inspiration of why people do what they do beyond 9 to 5 clocking in. It's the creative magic of Nashville. They'll leave after an hour, and you have, like I said, it's in the cafe treasury, so there's food, drinks, and everything else as well.
The stars are flooding up the sky right before my very eyes. My heart feels busted open wide to countless years of ancient life.
I think it's more about qualitative and not quantitative, and I think that's a big crux of Nashville and creativity right now. It's not about the numbers, it's about or how many people come. It's just the quality of the show, not wasting anybody's time, including the artists, knowing that they're going to get paid for their time, which is a rarity in a lot of things, and then people discovering people that they've probably bumped into in the supermarket but never knew that they did this, and this, and it's just magic. So I think that if nobody comes, like I said, I know it's not a waste of time because I get to spend 2 or 3 hours with Jason Eskridge, the most remarkable, interesting man, and you can do multiple shows on Jason Eskridge. But it's just an appreciation for where we live and why people choose to live here where they can do anything else in any other city. And so I think that that's the vision, is to keep on showcasing people that are just as talented as the names that you do know but haven't had a chance to do that. But there is no formula to this other than one musician and one artist of a different one. So for me, speaking for myself, it's like it feels like that essence of like going to church and not having any expectations and always leaving like I was supposed to hear and see these people this moment. And so like for not having wasted any time and to love my city and these other people that call it home as well even more. It's just a beautiful thing to be a part of.
For more information about Woven Nashville and other events happening this week, visit WNXP.org. My name is Marquise Munson, and thank you for listening to another edition of Where When-sdays.
I did not set out to know, to feel the heat of the coast, did not intend to burn holes through the soul.
Thanks for listening to the Nash Villager podcast. We take this look at Nashville news every weekday. If you like it, go ahead and subscribe on your favorite podcasting app and tell a friend or give us a mention on your socials. It really helps get the word out. And of course, everything at WPLN News is listener supported. You can become a member at WPLN.org. And that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening. Let's make this day a good one, and we'll catch back up tomorrow.